You hit the jackpot. He did not die.
Is anyone here not chicken shit?
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and today we are back with another Dun Dun Mukbang. Boo! Kind of excited because I have a new contraption. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I spend way too much time browsing food displays on the internet, and I need to chill out.
And this is a food display.
But you know what it is today. So we are going to be hanging some donuts on my new donut display, and I have 10 donuts here. I feel like you guys can't see like some of the bottom couple pieces, but it's gonna be fine. Some of them are cream filled. I had to stick it in. And we have extra crispy KFC fried chicken, mashed potatoes, they forgot the goddamn gravy, some mac and cheese, and some coleslaw, and some finger dick. So this one already has a little bit of sauce on it. And
is this new, or have they always had this? Wow, it's actually really good. Holy cow. It's actually really good. This is kind of up there with the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Really thick.
I like it though.
It's exactly what you imagine from KFC, right?
No,
Wow.
This is good.
Wow.
Why haven't you been ordering that? Why haven't you been ordering the sauce? You've been holding it back?
It's 25 cents extra per sauce.
Okay.
Meanwhile, donut tower. Unnecessary donut tower.
Yeah.
Hey, you gotta save some here so you can put it in here, okay? Wow, these are so good. Which one would you like?
I'm gonna get this one.
That's so specific. I thought you were gonna get one of these so that we could have like a actual, you know.
Okay.
You like that one? What does it taste like?
Tastes like donut with sugar.
I'm just gonna jump right into today's stories because today's stories was actually meant for a different video. I had so many of these stories and I had to break it down into two because it is about to get so intense. Because I believe, do you believe that certain movie sets are haunted? You don't think so? Like, you don't think if you were to write a movie or write a book or write a song about the devil himself that you're not asking for trouble? You don't think so? Really? Why? Why is it? Why don't you believe it? I'm annoyed.
It's movies. I don't know. Just like how I don't believe whenever you're like, oh, my house is haunted, you know.
How can you not believe a YouTuber? It doesn't make sense. Text me at, I'm just kidding. Sorry, can I not say that? I'm gonna leave it in though.
Do people know what is it about?
Okay, everybody knows it's a scam. Come on. If you guys see a celebrity or YouTuber give away their phone number, just make sure to read the terms and the conditions. Because there's an app called Community, and they give celebrities and YouTubers a phone number to give out to their followers. And that will opt you in, and they'll sell your data. They'll sell your number.
I mean, honestly, though, I feel like people will get more triggered with their chopstick eating mac and cheese than their texting.
Then the number texting scam?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be talking about a couple of movie sets that were haunted. Now, I feel like I'm not really in the category. I feel like I'm a little bit on the same with you, where I truly didn't believe, okay, so what? You make a movie about, you know, the devil himself, right?
Yeah.
Is he gonna come haunt your movie set? It's almost like, I grew up in a Christian household, like my grandparents were super Christian, not so much my parents, but they would never let me like say anything about the devil because they said it's inviting the door, right? It's
Really?
opening the door and letting him in because you're calling his name. And so he knows that you're talking about him, he knows that you're thinking about him, and that immediately is already a bad sign, okay? And so that just, like, they hated it. It was like their biggest fear. And so this movie would have completely ruined them. This movie would have traumatized them to the depths of hell and back.
That's my mom, too.
Really?
Yeah.
She believes in...
Yeah, she's just like... She gets very angry.
When you say, like, the devil?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. She gets very angry. Like, honestly angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, Mom, like, relax.
It's not that serious, right?
Yeah, and then she would smack me.
Oh.
Tell me to be quiet.
She's like, sorry, that was the devil taking over. Boom. It was going to be produced or directed by John Landis and Steven Spielberg. No. These two, they were going to make so much money off of this movie. Not like them two, but they were going to bring money to the movie, right? So they had been close friends. They've been really, really close collaborators. And after this movie, they were never friends again. And because there was just so much bad shit happening on set. So the first thing that a lot of people kind of attribute to the curse, but this is probably just like a really, really shitty accident that happened. Mm-hmm. John Landis is known for his very dictatorial type of directing. He's very intense. Like, he'll yell at you. He wants to get risky shots. He doesn't care what you say. He says, oh, you don't want to do it? I'll replace you with somebody else. So he's very intense. And a lot of people say, like, working with him is like working for the devil.
Okay, that's why it's haunted.
Mm-hmm. So they were going to produce the Twilight Zone. Now, this movie is not about the devil, but people believe that this set was forever cursed. And John Landis' career was rightfully cursed after this, like in real life. Like, he didn't go on to do as big things as Steven Spielberg, okay? And so Twilight Zone is an 80s movie, and it was directed by Steven Spielberg and John Landis. Now, they had always been close friends, close collaborators. They did a lot of stuff together, and they were big names, and they were up and coming. They're not as, like, Steven Spielberg obviously wasn't as big in the 80s as he is now, but people respected his art. So they get hired to direct the movie, and they start casting people. And this movie is truly about it's the Vietnam War. So it's like the premise and the plot. I didn't watch it, right? It's about the Vietnam War, and you have this man who's trying to save these Vietnamese children while this American helicopter is coming after him. But he's an American man, I believe, in the movie, and so it's just kind of like a really intense political thriller drama, but about a wartime. Like, it's very, very intense from what I've heard, right? And so there's this one shot. So here's the thing about John Landis. Him and Steven Spielberg ended up never becoming friends after this. Like, they dumped their friendship, and John Landis pretty much dumped his career. You could say the devil took his career, because the devil was John Landis, is what a lot of people say, allegedly, when they worked with him, because they say that he is one of the most harshest dictator-type directors they've ever met. Oh my gosh, this one is so good. Wow.
Okay.
So he would always yell at the cast and crew. He didn't care if something was dangerous. Now, back in the 80s, Hollywood was not regulated. So the directors and the producers were in charge of everything. There really was no, like, board that you call and say, hey, this movie set is breaking laws. Like, there really wasn't a lot of laws, right? Now, however, there were laws about child actors. Now, because this movie was it was shot in the U.S., but it was supposed to be in Vietnam, they took this giant Indian Dunes ranch. Now, this place is really famous amongst movies because it's, for 30 miles, you don't see any city lights. So if you want, like, that true night shot, you're not going to get, like, lights in the background, even though it's, like, close to a lot of things that, you know, these producers and directors want. And so they go there. Now, a lot of people also like it, not just because of the city lights, but for the amount of space that there's a lot of different terrain. Like, there's swamp areas, there's tree areas, there's flat, like, desert-looking areas. So you will get a variety of shots in that one place, instead of traveling to different areas, right? Once movie production started, Steven and John Landis, they were kind of having a little bit of difficulties. They were experiencing a rift in their friendship because up until this point, I mean, Steven Spielberg had worked with him before, had worked with John before, and so he kind of understands that John is really into cutting corners and taking a lot of risk. It's kind of what makes him successful, but also what's going to end up killing his career, like it did with this movie, right? And Steven Spielberg went off to do amazing things. So essentially, how it all started. It really all started when he illegally hired 2 Chinese children actors, okay? And the way that this was done is, a lot of the times back in the day, this was often done because when you pay them under the table, it's less money coming out of your pocket. The parents and the agents that are representing the child actors typically like it. And on top of that, when you have a child actor on set that you file all these things for because you're not paying them in cash, there are so many rules and regulations. They can't shoot at night. They can't be anywhere near certain things. You have to get a special permit for a child actor to film at night. And you have to file it, right? But the problem is they couldn't file it because there was allegedly no child actor on set because they were being paid under the table. So how do
Yeah.
you file for something that was never filed to begin with?
Yeah.
File for a permit for something that wasn't there. And
Yeah.
so John Landis had hired these two Chinese actors, child actors, and they were 6 and 7 years old. So they're very, very young. They're not even like 12, 10 or anything like that. And the scene that John Landis really wanted to get, and Steven Spielberg allegedly had nothing to do with it and didn't want this scene to be shot the way that it was done, is he wanted to get, so essentially the main character in this movie, right, his name is Vic Morrow, and he was 53 years old at the time, and he was a very well-known actor at the time, right? And so the scene was supposed to be him running through this swamp area. So you're running in water. That's never going to be easy. But on top of that, he was going to pick up these two child actors and run with them as an American helicopter descends onto them. Almost like, no, don't come get me, you Americans, but I'm American, but I'm going to save these kids. So it's supposed to be like a very emotional scene. And it ended up becoming very emotional for a lot of reasons. So firstly, it was really windy that night. It was dark. Like I said, there's no city lights in this area. It was incredibly dark and windy because of all of the terrain and the way that this place is set up. And so they get this helicopter, and the way that they're going to perform this shot is they wanted a lot of special effects. So they have something called like a rotor, I believe, where the helicopter would come down and shot out at the right time. It would be heavy, heavy burst of pressurized air. Now, air is actually very powerful when used in a very specific way, right? This was gonna make it look very misty, and like the helicopters are so powerful, and they're just gonna edit the shit out of it to make it even better, okay? And so you're working with a lot of machinery. They also wanted to get a bunch of cast to get cameras up onto this like ramp thing that was literally swaying in the wind of the helicopter because it wasn't stabilized. And even the cast was like, I don't think we should do this. And he literally stood up. John Landis, the director, stood up, allegedly, according to people on set, and said,
Is anyone here not chicken shit?
and so the
Chicken shit?
yeah, like he's saying everybody's chicken shit. You're scared of going up on there and getting footage of it. Meanwhile, he like sits in his director chair, right? And so it was just,
Wow.
it was just not a good experience, right? And so
Yeah.
especially because like, especially in the 80s, allegedly with Hollywood, if you walk out on a set like that, you'll never get hired again.
Yeah. Damn. Did the movie even do good?
I don't think so. Oh, I think it's like a series. I believe the rest did really well. I don't know if this one even aired because I only saw a snippet of the accident. Foreshadowing. Ooh.
But why did they say it's haunted then? Is it haunted, you think?
It's haunting his career, for sure. So he gets the cast to go up there. Now, Vic Morrow, before he gets onto set, he looks at one of the castmates and he goes, I should have asked for a stunt double. I'm crazy for doing something like this, right? Because it's still very, very dangerous, and it's still very, very dark, and it's water, and there's a lot of uncontrolled things going around, right? And so the scene starts, the cameras are rolling, and he's running through the swamp. He picks up one kid and another kid, and the helicopter is descending, and all you hear is John Landis yelling into the audio thing that he's communicating with the helicopter like driver, and he's going, get lower, get lower, get lower, right? And at the time that the helicopter got lower, somebody had missed the timing on the motor button. Pressurized air burst through, the rotor of the helicopter flew off,
What?
and the helicopter propelled down onto all three actors. Now, at this point in time, because of how loud everything was, nobody could hear what was going on. It was heavy commotion. And Vic, the main actor in the scene with the two children, he had dropped one of the kids, right, into the water. Because, I mean, he's supposed to run with two kids, and it just got really intense, right? And so he goes to pick up that kid, and him and the other kid, they get decapitated by the helicopter rotors.
Him and the one that he was holding.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to pick up the other
And
kid.
then the other kid that wasn't able to get picked up got squashed by the helicopter. And all of it was caught on camera, and you can watch it on YouTube.
No.
Yeah. So there was a manslaughter case. He was charged for manslaughter,
The director.
but he was acquitted.
Why? Holy cow. Wow.
The defense was the timing was wrong.
Tiger, excuse me.
So there was a 9-month trial and he was acquitted, and his defense was pretty much he didn't know that the timing would have been so bad. There was no way to really control the timing of the button, etc., etc. But allegedly everybody that worked on set, they said, well, yeah, I guess you could say that, but he's just known for not giving a shit about people's safety. Like, that's what he's known for. So technically a lot of people believe that he deserved to be in jail for the rest of his life. However, if there is a bright side to any of this, the way that it went weird is that there was actually a firefighter on set. And that firefighter was also... So when you have child actors registered to be on set to, you know, be a part of the movie, you actually have to have someone who's a social worker. Not just their parent, but a social worker that has all the guidelines that these productions have to follow. That's like today, right? And back in the day, they kind of implemented it, but because they were paid under the table, the only person that they had close to that was a firefighter that was on set just in case something bad happened. But he was also, like, in the child care services. Like, he understood that service, right?
Yeah.
And that firefighter was specifically told by John Landis, allegedly, to not tell the parents that there was going to be a real helicopter involved in the scene. So the parents thought, like, when their kids went onto set, it was going to be all audio noises. And so they prepped their kid, like, yes, you're going to hear loud noises. It's going to be fine. It's just noise. But then a real helicopter came to set.
Do they know what happened after that? That's crazy.
So, like I
How
said...
does he get acquitted? Because especially he get these kids illegally.
So they would say that this is the moment that Hollywood regulated more. And so at this point, like I said, if you look at the bright side at anything, there is no bright side on this. But if you had to, at least the parents of both the kids, they won several $1 million from lawsuits. So at least, right? Because I know, like, a lot of cases where a lot of people get injured, and because of the way that, like, the world was set up or that law was set up, like, they don't get anything for their grief, you know?
Wow. So afterwards, he's still trying to stay in Hollywood? Really?
I mean, this haunted his career.
And people will still work with him?
Barely.
Oh.
Like, he did not go anywhere near where Steven Spielberg did. I mean, you could obviously say it's a difference in talent, but, I mean, he was headed to good places. John Landis, you know? He had some big names under his belt, some big movies under his belt. If this didn't happen, he would have, you know... But I'm glad, you know, his career did.
Yeah.
And at this point, Steven Spielberg came out and he immediately distanced himself from John Landis. And he went on to kind of be someone who advocated that anyone on set, cast, crew, cameraman, whatever, you have the right to yell cut at any time. It's not just the director. So, like,
really?
Yeah, he went on to advocate for that. And after that, all of the production agencies, because they were scared shitless, not because they actually truly cared. I'm sure some of them cared, but most of them were scared shitless of the lawsuits that might have be coming. So they put out all these rules for all their production crew, etc., etc. And accidents from then on dropped 69%. So it got a little bit better. I guess you could say there's a silver lining, but not really, because we're about to talk about The Omen.
The what?
So The Omen is a very scary movie, and this is the one where everybody says it truly was haunted by the devil himself. So this took place in the 70s. Now, if you guys don't know anything about Rosemary's Baby, it was directed by a Polish director who was also married to Sharon Tate, and there's so much talk about there being a curse around that, because if you guys don't know, Sharon Tate was his wife, the director's wife of Rosemary's Baby. And Rosemary's Baby is known to be one of the forefront leaders of horror, the horror genre, right? Back in the day, there was more like I Love Lucy, and then all of a sudden Rosemary's Baby, and everyone was like, whoa. And it made a lot of money, and it got a lot of traction. And so then everybody else was like, let's do more horror, right? And so the wife of the director, she was pregnant, and she was eventually disgustingly murdered by Charles Manson and his cult. Rosemary's Baby is technically about a woman by the name of Rosemary who gives birth to the devil.
And then she got murdered.
The end is very, like, dark because she gives birth to the devil. She realizes it's the devil, but her mother instinct takes over and she raises the devil. Because that's her baby.
Yeah. Have you watched it?
I've seen the remake, not as good, I heard. This was around the time. This is kind of pertinent to know. So everybody was trying to jump onto that horror genre. And now there was these 2 script writers, and they wrote this screenplay for a very intense play that had never happened before. It was supposed to be about a man who adopts a son who is the Antichrist.
Okay. Why?
Because that's what was in.
Oh.
People want to know more about like these spooky, like this was when all the exorcism movies back in the day came out.
Okay. Did people like that?
This is one of the higher grossing films of that genre to this day. And it also might be because of all the deaths that happened around it and all the creepy accidents. Now, the producers of this movie believe that the entire movie set was haunted from the beginning because the devil himself, the Antichrist, did not like this, right? They did not like that they were showing him in such a vulnerable young state, right? It's not even about the fact that this movie was made because there was a lot of movies made about the devil. Why weren't those haunted, right? And some of them are perceived to be, but why specifically this one?
Yeah.
Because it was perceived to be a young child, and that's a very vulnerable place for, someone who is so powerful and dark, if you guys believe in him, to be in that position. I'm going to start with the creepiest. There was a special effects consultant on set, right? And he pretty much facilitates all of the things that require special effects back in the day, in the 70s, right? And so he goes and he tells the producers, no, it should be laid out this way so that in post you guys edit it this way and then this happens, right? And he also designed all of the death scenes. Now, this is very important. At this point, there's a photographer in the movie, right? And he designed this whole death scene, right? Photographer in the movie who gets viciously, gruesomely decapitated by the kid. The Antichrist, right? Now, this is all special effects. This is all part of the movie. This is not real life. The photographer, the actor that played the photographer is fine and well, I believe. And so he pretty much put up all of this set. He did all of this, right? And then after the movie was done being filmed, he felt like something was following him all the time, and he felt really creeped out. But then he was like, you know what? I think it also has to do with the fact that I was on a movie set talking about the devil. I'm sure nobody comes out of there feeling squeaky clean. And so he's driving one day because he picked up a new movie, right? And his assistant and him are in the car when all of a sudden they go head on to another car. They get into a massive car accident and he gets knocked out unconscious. And now when he wakes up, he looks to the right of him and his assistant was decapitated from the accident. And he said what's even creepier is that he looked up and there was a sign. You know how when you drive down these empty roads, you see the signs to the nearest town, and they tell you how many miles away it is?
Yeah.
It said 666 miles away, and it was the town of Omen.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a little creepy. Oh. So this happened, and everybody's like, holy cow. This is haunted. Let's go watch it.
Before that.
Oh.
That was the creepiest part. That was very, textbook haunting, you know? The 666, the Omen, the same recreation of the scene, you know?
Okay.
But there was a lot of accidents involved in production. Not after, but in the production, right? Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because I feel like when you have anything haunted and when you have it and you place it in the 70s, I feel like the stories translate differently, right? Because this all happened pretty much before the internet blew up. And so they tell somebody, it was in the newspaper, the people, misinterpret the newspaper and then they post it online, right? So there's a little bit of debate about exactly the timeline in which it happened, but everybody does understand and accept the fact that Gregory Peck, which is a well-known actor at the time, he was casted for the lead role. And this was a massive hit for the movie. They were like, yes, this is gonna do well because we have an A-list actor that's gonna take on the role, that's gonna adopt the Antichrist. We're excited, right? Now, some people say online that he actually accepted the role and then the tragedy happened, or some people say it was vice versa. So essentially he accepts this role and he's an older man, right? He has a son in real life, right? And almost right before production started, the son took his own life. And so he was grieving. He was in the process of mourning. But he had really wanted to transfer that grief into the character that he was going to play because, you know, he was playing a father.
Wow.
And so he decided, you know what, like, I'm not going to pull out of the movie now. I'm going to go and I'm going to get on a plane to England because that's where they were shooting it. And I'm going to nail it. I'm going to nail this character and everyone's going to be blown away, right? This is the distraction that I need. And so he gets on the plane to England. He's crossing the Atlantic Ocean and lightning strikes and his plane almost crashes. It lost, like, something in the engine went out, but it didn't eventually end up crashing all the way.
It's safe landed?
Yeah, he did not die, thankfully. But there was lightning that struck him while he was passing the Atlantic.
That is so weird.
Very creepy, right? But what's even creepier is about a week later, a producer gets on a plane, a separate plane, to go to England. And as he's crossing the Atlantic, lightning strikes his plane. And he, too, eventually makes it to England safely.
That is weird. This is all the same movie. Wow.
And the third is the screenwriter, David, gets on a plane.
He got struck with the lightning?
Yes.
No way.
Yes, he was also struck. 3 lightning bolts struck 3 different planes across the Atlantic.
And they all survived.
But what are the coincidences? What are the chances that those 3 planes, someone involved with the movie was in one of them? 3 different people involved in the movie got struck by lightning on a plane to go film the movie. I'm just saying.
The chance of that.
That's why they say.
Do the math.
See, that's why they say it's a curse. Now it gets weirder because there's more planes involved. There's more bullshit involved. So essentially, one of the first scenes that they were gonna take for the movie, it's not the opening scene, I believe, but they filmed things out of order essentially. And so all they had to do was they were gonna rent this plane from a third-party company, and they were gonna rent it, and there was supposed to be like a plane special effects, etc., etc., etc. Right?
Helicopter?
Yeah, no, it was a plane, yeah. And so at that moment, the company that they were renting it from decided we're actually going to swap out the original plane that they wanted for a different one because a group of Chinese businessmen gave them a better deal for it. Now, allegedly, this I couldn't find too much on the news about, and it could be because at the time, like, the world wasn't super interconnected with, you know, the internet. And so allegedly what had happened, and a lot of people on the cast and crew confirmed this, is that original plane, something was defected in it, and it crashed.
The original one.
Yeah, and a lot of the Chinese businessmen were critically injured, and there were deaths. It seems like that is confirmed, but it hasn't been confirmed exactly how many deaths and exactly how many injuries. But the original plane that they were supposed to take for the movie set crashed, and they were given a different plane that day. But they didn't realize that it was a different plane until the day after. And they were like, "What about our original plane?" And they were like, "Well, it's crashed now."
They're still going about the filming.
Yeah. And then they proceed. Now, it's not just planes, it's not just technology and transportation devices that are very scary in this movie. There's actually a lot of dogs involved. Now, allegedly, this is up for debate. They call him the devil's dog. Now, I don't think any dog is the devil's dog, but the reason that they call him that is that they look very, very scary, right?
Doberman?
So that's where it's up for debate. Some people say that the devil's dog is the Doberman. Some people say that it's the Rottweiler. When they say that, it's not like them being like, no, you should never have one. They're evil. You should be scared of them. It's just in a lot of movies, they're the ones that look very like mean and like gangster. I wanted a Doberman. I cannot exercise a Doberman well enough though. They used Rottweilers, okay? And they used a bunch of Rottweilers, and this was supposed to be the young devil controlling these dogs to attack whoever he felt like he wanted them to be attacked, and it was supposed to be the dad, but they got a stuntman obviously, and this person was trained, right? And so he's all padded up and he's got all these face coverings, and they have the dog trainer on set. And now these Rottweilers, they are not just willy-nilly, just very scary, angry dogs. These are highly trained movie dogs.
Movie stars,
yeah. And so essentially what they do is like they'll say attack, and they attack the person that's padded up, and then when they say stop, the dogs pull back because that's what they've been trained to do. And so they yell,
attack! Stop! Stop! Stop!
And they wouldn't stop. And they bit through so much of the padding that they were injured. They did need to be taken to the hospital. Thankfully, they did not die. And the trainer got a little bit of scratches trying to stop the dogs. but something about it was just so eerie to everyone. However, they decided, let's continue on with the animals, because they had this giant tiger that was supposed to be on set, and the zoo handler was supposed to help control these tigers, allegedly forgot to securely fasten like the whatever the tiger was confined to, whether it was a leash or a chain or etc. And he attacked the zookeeper, and the zookeeper ended up dying on set. But you know, I would think that after the Rottweilers, you'd give the animals a break.
Wow, this movie is haunted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the movie came out?
The movie came out, and there's like other small things that I didn't think were like super important, but there's just, it's not even just like that's it and then everything else went smoothly. It was like mishap after mishap. They just weren't so massive, but when you look at the big picture of all the shit that happened, it just came into this big pile of snowball of hauntedness that just grew and grew and grew. And this movie did so well. There was actually remakes of it, and what's interesting is they say that all the child actors that played the Antichrist, they just, it's very interesting. They don't like to talk about their time in that movie. And some of them, like, they had to hire a PI to track down one of them later on because they just completely disappeared from the scene. I mean, they're alive. They just, you know. And then
Wait, how many are there? Just
I
one?
think there was 3 remakes. That's why. So, like, the first one, I believe they had to hire a PI. And he ended up taking a small, tiny cameo role in the second remake. But the fact that he just completely disappeared, didn't take any more acting jobs after making such a hard hitter like that is very weird. And then the second child actor that was casted to play the Antichrist, later on he grew up and didn't want to do acting anymore. And he started working for an Australian truck driving company, I believe. And then the third one, I believe he continued acting, but he barely ever talked about his role in the Omen. He just didn't want to talk about it. This is not something he wanted to talk about. Which is weird because usually, you know, they talk about the movies when they're asked because it's like part of your work. Let me know in the comments, do you believe that there's like curses for things like this? Or do you think that, okay, there's no way you could really reason around this one. What could it be? Just like really bad luck?
So I saw a video recently right, on YouTube. They were trying to test everybody. It's like curse or luck or whatever. He went into a town, just a random town in the middle of nowhere, and he started interviewing these people, and he narrowed down to a handful of people who feels like they're super unlucky. And then he started to spreading a rumor to everyone, to saying that there's a dog statue in the middle of the town. You will be walking nearby that statue, right? He will hire somebody to go touch the dog over there, and he say, hey, did you see that dog over there? I heard if you touch it and make a wish, your dream will come true. And then the person look at him and look at the dog, say, oh, that's cool, left. But it planted a seed in their mind. So he started doing this to a bunch of people, and then these people eventually start doing
I thought you said that guy went around touching a bunch of dogs.
Rumors start spreading, right? And it's you just see more and more and more people start coming to touch that dog. And then later on, he came back into the town and he interviewed the same people. A lot of them went from very negative to very positive. At first, they were like, oh, my job sucks, my life sucks, I'm so unlucky, to, yeah, I'm lucky, yeah. I just realized, you know, I was thinking about this job, I just got this job, I just got offer here, I just did this, I just found $5 on the street.
Do you guys believe in luck? Leave it in the comments. I don't think it's luck. I think it's like small muscle movements.
What?
Listen, right? You believe you're unlucky. It's gonna reflect in your face in the most subtle way.
And then
everything you do, people can't put their finger on it, but you just don't seem like an amazing, happy person, maybe.
It's up to you. I don't care what people think. Do you think you're
because
lucky?
like maybe you don't get the job. Maybe the cashier is rude to you. Because maybe you think that you're unlucky, and like the smallest slight muscle movement in your face. I read this whole article on it. Yeah, like the smallest muscle movement in your face could be the reason that you and then it's also obviously the idea of like if something happened, like if you get a new car, you're gonna see that new car on the road everywhere because it's on your mind, right? But they were saying like it has to do with your smallest muscle movements that humans can't put a place on, and that's why we call it luck. Because when you ask the job interviewer, hey, why didn't you hire this person who is going around telling other people that he's unlucky, it's not because they thought he was unlucky. It was like I don't know. I just like the other candidate better. And the other candidate believed that they were a very lucky person. And maybe it had to do with like the slight muscle movements of more of a genuine smile, a bigger smile, a more confident stride.
Do you think you're lucky?
Yeah. No, I think I'm really lucky in certain things and really unlucky in certain things.
Same.
Yeah. Hey, don't look at me. You hit the jackpot, boo-boo. The biggest lottery in the game. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on the whole luck thing? Do you believe it? Do you think it's like muscle movements, or do you think it's like a frame of mind? Some people say that it's like in your thoughts, it's in your head. And do you think that movie sets can be cursed? Do you think that if you say somebody's name, especially the devil, he'll come? Is that an invitation? I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.